And we're live.
Hey everyone.
Hi, every week we're like, we're live. Hello everybody.
How are you all? Thank you for being with us today, guys. First of all, as always, let us know if you can see and hear us. Okay.
Yeah, please let us know in the comments if we're coming through. Oh, I think we have a delay. We do
have a delay.
We've got Janet with us in the office, and it looks like there's a bit of delay there.
Cool.
Hopefully
it is working.
It's going to catch up in a second.
Oh, are we all good? Let us know, guys. See, we spoke too soon, Lauren, when we were celebrating everything going smooth.
I feel like we're way ahead of the live stream here.
Perfectly clear. Amazing. I think what's happened is so many people have jumped on at the same time. We've got like a little lag, which can happen, Lauren. So we get a little 5-10 second lag, maybe.
Totally fine.
Should be all good. But yeah, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure most people here know all about you and the wonderful work you do. But for the one or two people that don't, maybe, could you introduce yourself?
How dare you? I'm kidding. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining. Thank you for the warm welcome. For those of you who aren't familiar with my work, my name is Lauren Hom, and I am a hand lettering artist, illustrator. I feel like I kind of flip-flop on the terms, but I am based in Detroit, Michigan, and I've been a commercial hand letterer for 5 years, and now I teach lettering classes and workshops, and I've also always had a knack for creative marketing, so it's a little bit about what I do. I'm an accidental, I guess, letterer. I started in the advertising industry, and because of the internet, shout out to Tumblr for anyone who's still on Tumblr, that gave me kind of a boost into the lettering industry, and here I am today.
Love it.
Amazing.
And where are you coming from today? Where are you live?
I am streaming from Amsterdam. I'm here at the tail end of a month-long work trip. I've been all over. I was in Manila to speak at Graphica Manila earlier in February, and then I was in Amsterdam actually 2 weeks ago too to speak at FITC, and then I went to Budapest and Copenhagen to see friends. Well, Copenhagen was friends, Budapest was vacation, and now I'm here with my boyfriend, just hanging out before we catch a flight back home tomorrow.
Amazing. And yeah, Lauren, I don't know if you're getting it your side. Your video is a little bit laggy, but I think that might be hotel internet, unfortunately. There might not be that much we can do, but the main thing is we can hear you. There's nothing worse than bad audio because you really can't pay attention to that. So I'll let you know if we need to kind of freeze frame when you do your demo.
Cool.
If that lags, that might be kind of unclear, but we can hear you fine, and hopefully it will pick up, because it was totally fine when we were chatting a few minutes ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, you never know.
So yeah, thank you everyone for being here. It's going to be a really, really good session today.
A lot of people on the call
today. A lot of people showing up, which is awesome. So if it is a little bit laggy, apologies, but don't worry, Lauren is going to bring serious value, as she always does. Normally I shout out everyone on the call. I don't know if I can today. There's too many of you guys.
3 pages.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a blanket thank you for being here. Otherwise, we might be here all day. But Lauren, what have you got in store for us today?
Today, I thought it would be fun to walk you guys through a little behind the scenes of how a real life client lettering project goes. So I'm going to show you the initial brief that I get. I'll show you the sketches that I turn in. I'll talk about the feedback I get, what I send back, and then how it kind of ends in the final product. I feel like when I was starting freelancing, I would have loved if someone had demystified that process a little bit. Like, how many sketches are you supposed to send? How do you talk to art directors? So I'm just going to touch upon all of that. So I'll be showing you guys the entire, I guess, life cycle of a Target gift card that I designed last year.
Nice.
As in the Target.
Yes, the Target. Is there more than one Target?
Yeah.
I wish we had it here, to be honest. I've heard great things.
Is there a UK version of Target?
I don't know what that would be.
Yeah, what's our equivalent? Wilco's. Yeah, not as cool, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. As I say, we'll let you know how it goes with the video. I think the fact you're sharing still images, hopefully the lag won't matter too much for people. But damn you, hotel internet, we knew something was going to happen.
Yes. So just let me, if it lags, just let me know. Should I keep talking if it starts to lag?
Yeah, and worst case scenario, if you get kicked off, obviously we're just wait around and hopefully keep these guys entertained.
Can't you?
We'll find a way to make it work. Don't worry.
Okay, that sounds good. Cool. Are you guys going to shout out questions while I'm going through the images?
Yeah, generally everyone on the call, there's an ask a question box right below the video. And if you pop your questions in there, normally how it works is we'll go through the demo and then we do questions afterwards. Unless it's like super kind of relevant to like a moment in the demo. Because that way it can kind of flow and be really clear, and then we can just do some dedicated Q&A at the end.
Yeah, when you share your screen, you won't be able to see anything that's going on in the chat anyway. So we'll keep an eye on them. But yeah, if you guys have questions, then just pop them down below and we can go through those with Lauren a little bit later on.
Perfect. That sounds good.
So shall we give the screen sharing a try?
All right, let's everyone in the chat.
Okay, share screen. Tell me if this works.
It's working.
Okay, cool. All right, so I have all these things pulled up. So this is a gift card I did, I think, summer last year, and it didn't go live till the fall. So a lot of pre-production happens, I think, pretty early. So here's the brief that I get. And so sometimes art directors will send along like rough sketches of what they're thinking. So in this case, you can see that they already kind of had an idea of the hierarchy of things. With Target gift cards, if any of you ever work on one, they're usually pretty particular about where the bullseye is going to go on the card, and then you kind of work around that. So the placement was pretty locked in for this one. Oftentimes you'll get a mood board too, hopefully mostly of your own work. So you can see they threw in a couple reference pieces of things that I've done that they liked. They had mentioned that they wanted mostly like sans serif and not too much script, just because one thing to take into consideration when you're designing a like product that people are going to see like in the real world is the actual size. And if a gift card is maybe only 2 inches by 3 inches, I don't know what that is in centimeters. So
Lauren, that's such a great tip though, in terms of thinking of the context, because it's not only the size, but it will be how people see it. So for example, if it's something on public transport, it's not just the size, it might be someone seeing it for a split second because they're going past on a train or something. You know, that context matters so much.
100%. And, you know, especially I rarely design things that are this small, but this is always a fun challenge because this is maybe something that's going to be seen at the checkout. That's kind of an upsell item. Normally they keep gift cards on a little stand, and and I never really designed for that small. So it was a good challenge to keep it fun, but also super legible. And for those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I talk about legibility a ton in terms of that being one of the biggest factors in my commercial success as a letterer is, yes, my work is fun, it's colorful, it has like embellishments and ornaments, but I think that the most important part and the thing that art directors have stressed over and over to me is make it legible, make it legible. If, you know, people can't read it, we don't care how pretty it is. So that's really worked to my advantage, that my style is naturally a little bit simpler and a little bit less ornate than other people's work. And, you know, I hope that gives people some confidence too, that they don't have to have the most flourishes and the most fancy script in order to be a successful letterer. If anything, keeping it simpler and giving your letters a little bit more breathing room can work to your advantage if you want to be a commercial hand letterer. So there is the brief.
And being like, that looks so nice, but I have no idea what it says. You know?
Exactly. And that's something to take into consideration too when designing for Instagram or anything social media, is most people are looking at it at about a gift card size, you know, on their screen. So even though it looks nice to have it super fancy, I think simpler actually is more effective in getting your message across. So the next step, once I get that brief, is I will start doing pencil sketches. And this is about the level of finesse that I show like my first round of sketches with. It's always in black and white, and it's always, always in black and white. And I usually show 2 to 3 of them, depending on how dense the brief is. I'm actually working on a project right now that's an editorial project that has, I think, over 200 words total in the brief. So I can't do multiple versions because it's just too much, too much work. So depending on how dense the brief is or what it is, or if the art director has given me one particular piece that I've done and they're like, can you replicate that, but with this phrase? Sometimes I'll get a brief like that. It's a little bit less creative, but it's also very straightforward and I might not have to show that many variations. So here's the first one that I turned in. And they did say with this one
is their logo, right? For Target.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yes. So one, I'm not going to pull up all the emails because it would just be too much for you all to read, and I'm not going to make you read emails on this call. But the art directors had said that they did primarily want the bullseye in the center, but I could experiment if I had another idea. So here's one of the options that doesn't have the bullseye in the center. Here's another one that is a little based off of the center one, a little bit more ornate type with the thanks, and then keeping everything else pretty simple. And one thing that I do in my work a lot that maybe some of you have picked up on, or maybe some of you haven't, is you can see that in this example, gotta tell you and in a great big way are in the same style. And then thanks is the big call out word.
Yeah.
Before I start lettering, I normally pick out the hierarchy of, okay, this is the most important word, or these are the most important words. And I like, for simplicity and legibility, here's a little tip, keeping words or phrases of equal importance in the same style can be a way to cut back on having too many, I think, styles or visual interest on the page. So minimizing, I usually only ever use 2 or 3 different type styles in a single piece, and that has worked really well from a commercial standpoint. So a little pro tip there. And
pen and papers at the ready.
It's exactly the same when I did web design for years. If a website has like 6 different fonts, it's a complete mess.
Plus, as well, if you want certain words to stand out like that, you just need to pick that word and commit to it rather than having so much going on that nothing really is the main message.
Yeah, it's much focused.
Absolutely. So here's the third one.
I've never seen your work so early stage.
I know, because I rarely ever share it super early stage, because not that I guess it's, not the most polished part, but I share some of my process sometimes or time lapses, but usually for personal work. So I think that this is a pretty rare treat for people to see behind the scenes of an actual commercial project, because that's what most, I think, aspiring hand letters are working towards, is to be able to work with clients on lettering. So it's a lot different when you're working on someone else's brief than when you're just working on a personal piece. I normally wouldn't do so many iterations, I think, on a personal piece. So here's the third one. So this one is a little bit more ornate. There's actually 4 different type styles going on here. So pushing the envelope a little bit. I'll usually show like a simpler one. So I'd say this one is probably the simplest. This one and the last one that I just showed are probably kind of comparable. They said I could play around with different types of flourishes. So swirls and droplets are my 2 kind of favorite ones. This one has a lot of, I guess, even though there are 4 styles, most of it is just laid out horizontally. So that helps a little bit. It was tough to work around the bullseye too with this one to split up the words, but this is actually the one that the client ended up choosing as their favorite. And so from here, once I show the 3 rough sketches, usually the next step will be they'll pick one for me to refine. Very rarely will they say, hey, can you actually work out these 2 were stuck between, this and this, and I can do that too. But they picked this one, and the feedback was they liked it a lot, but they wanted the embellishments to feel a little bit more gender neutral. They felt like this was a little bit too feminine with the droplets and the swirls. So I will show you the next stab I took at this. And because this was an expedited timeline too, we ended up doing the next round of revisions in color as well. So I'll pull this up.
Did they tell you what to write, or did you come up with that?
They have the copy pre-approved. So with a lot of bigger clients, I would say that because their legal teams are so tight and the brands, the brand voice and the guidelines are very strict, I'll usually get the phrase ahead of time. But what's been happening more recently is actually clients trusting me to do the copywriting as well. So that's been really fun, because for those of you who've been following my work, you know that I love writing my own content and giving it kind of my own spin. I'm totally happy to letter other people's phrases and, more advertising geared marketing stuff, but it's always a treat when I get to write it myself as well. Yeah. And that's a big part of, or one of the benefits of being yourself online and showing off your personality is you will most likely attract clients who share a similar kind of tone of voice as you do. And who knows, maybe they'll let you do some copywriting for them.
Yeah, Lauren, I know when we had you on the Honest Designers show, we mentioned some of your copywriting in your pieces and how much it stood out. And in a world of Instagram posts where someone's got an unsplash photo and then put like, you know, get lost in the wild or something, and that's all you see everywhere. Yeah, all that kind of generic stuff. Your posts were like sassy and gassy and talking about like farting and stuff like that. And it was like,
yes, real life stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it really is. And that's another thing. Even though I know people who are on the fence that farts are either hilarious or disgusting, but
everybody does them.
I was going to say, yeah, things like that are universal. So
we got some of the team over there smiling, so we can see the fart levels over
there. I'm so glad.
But yeah, real life problems. Come on.
I love to stress to people that there's nothing wrong with taking an unsplash photo and writing the word love or adventure over it. Totally fine for practice, but I do think that it's a better strategy to learn how to find your own point of view and tone of voice and write your own stuff as early on as possible, because then you start to build your brand voice, you find your own confidence as an artist, and it helps you stand out. It just expedites the process a little bit when your writing is different. Even if a certain lettering style is popular, if the words are different, it's a huge differentiator, I've found.
Yeah, hugely. And if you want to go deeper on that and Lauren's stuff in general, Angela just mentioned in the comments, it's episode 98 of the Honest Designers show. You can find that obviously at designcuts.com, our website. But I think you got the medal for our longest episode ever. It's something ridiculous because there was so much value in there. And we were all like just having a real good time chatting. So I think it ran for like 2.5 hours. Or
oh my gosh, I know.
It was something nuts. Normally they're like an hour long.
You were recording it for even longer because Marco edits some of that out, right?
It was yeah. Although it was pretty much all good stuff. But it was super, super long. But the time just flew by. And if you have that window to go and listen to it, I highly recommend it because it's literally full of tips about how to stand out. And you talk about all your side projects like lettering for lunch and all that kind of stuff. But really good listen.
Also, shout out to Angela. Is she a super fan for knowing that it was episode 98?
I know. I'll tell you what, Lauren, while you keep going, I'm going to update the link below this video and point to that episode just so people can check it out.
But yeah, you carry on.
Okay, cool. So because it was a faster timeline, we did color in the next round of revisions as well. So I finalized this. The feedback, like I mentioned before, was that the flourishes felt too feminine around a great big way. So simplified it. I just made it a singular kind of line weight and took away all of the swirl in there and exchanged the droplets just for same little lines, and they liked that a lot better. And that's what I've actually found in a lot of projects I've worked on for Target is that keeping it gender neutral tends to be the challenge, which is really fun too, because I would say that the feedback I've gotten over the years is that my work skews feminine. And so I think what's fun about client briefs is that you get to use your problem solving skills and your own style to try to figure out how to solve the brief. So I turned these three in. So we have this turquoise one, another minty one, and then this coral one, and I sent this one in, and the feedback after this was that, okay, great, the layout looks great, the flourishes are good, but we think that these pastel colors are going to get a little bit lost on the gift card stand at the checkout. So can you make them more saturated and pop more and just a little bit bolder?
Yeah.
But everything else was approved.
For Target. What are their brand?
It's like bright red,
isn't it? Just bright red and white. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So it's not like you could play with much of their own then.
No. So so for most of the Target projects I've worked on, they don't limit you just to red and white. Don't worry. But they need it to feel, fun and kind of poppy. And so I turned in this one more saturated. This one.
By the way, Lauren, we're getting some great comments here. Everyone's loving the process so far. Ron just said 3D and drop shadows. Thank God. So tired of everyone preaching flat for their lettering. And I totally agree. It's more dynamic, right?
Are people preaching flat lettering right now?
Well, I think a lot of people kind of follow that. But yeah, yours is definitely more dynamic.
Interesting. Yeah, I have always gravitated towards dimensional looking type. I really don't know why. Maybe it's kind of old signage or just in the type inspiration I was pulling earlier on. But yeah, I've always loved adding dimension. Also, what's one thing too, when I first started lettering, I think I fell back on adding a lot of dimension and flourishes because my lettering wasn't amazing, but I felt like adding dimension made it more visually interesting, which is true. And I was able to, just experiment and figure out how to do it on my own. I mostly do and I'd say a mix of Photoshop and Procreate and then Adobe Illustrator when needed. So after I turned these in, they were like, great, went to the client, and this teal one was the final one that was chosen. And I believe they're still in stores now. So if any of you have a Target nearby and you're there this week, check out the gift card stand.
That's really cool. I'm looking at it,
there.
and this is a separate conversation, and I know you have no time for this, but I want that thanks as a font. That's so cool. I would totally.
I have thought about that over the years.
Yeah, but we'll have a separate conversation where I can try and harass you into making that.
Ooh, that could be good. I look forward to that. But yeah, that was pretty much the walkthrough of start to finish, getting the brief, turning in the final product, and I turned this in as like a high-res layered Photoshop file, and that was it. It's in stores now, so if you can find it, definitely buy one and take a picture of it, or give it to a friend who likes lettering. They actually have a bunch of cool artists who do gift cards there, so this was definitely like a big honor, I would say, to be able to do a Target gift card. And I've done 2 more since then, so I can't tell you about them yet because I don't think they're in stores, but keep an eye out. Cool. I'm gonna
anyway.
I feel like I really want to see a photo of it in action.
Yeah, someone needs to tag us on Instagram if you find one.
I have some screenshots on my phone, but I haven't gotten my hands on one yet. Mostly because I haven't been to my local Target in a while. All right, I'm back. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you so much for showing that, though. Really, really good insight into the process. And it's good to actually see how a big brand operates. They're more organized than some, by the look of it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Target's, I have to give a shout out to Target's like art direction and creative team. They are like so on it. I think over the years, I've gotten various levels of, briefs, and, there are certain questions you have to follow up with, but most of the time when you're working with bigger brands, they'll send you pretty solid briefs. And for those of you who work at agencies or like creative studios and have put together briefs, like, thank you for all you do. It makes our lives a lot easier.
Everyone, by the way, do get your questions coming in.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're just about to jump into some Q&A. So if you have any questions,
this is the perfect opportunity to pick Lauren's brain because she's got tons of that. Get your questions in now, guys. Absolutely.
Let's take a look at what we've got so far.
Cool. Remember, it's the ask a question link right below the video. You can pop your questions in. Shout
out to Heather. I'm not sure if Heather's live on the call now. I presume she is, but she was the first person to get a question in. And Heather has asked, there has been a recent discussion on Instagram on the topic of inspiration versus copying. The opinions seem to vary widely on what the definition of each seems to be. I would love to hear some of your thoughts on this and how to balance the tricky line of incorporating things that inspire you into your work without being seen as a copy.
That is a solid first question.
Ooh, yeah, that's a very meaty first question.
Heather is here on the call as well. I can see
Hi, Heather. Thanks for the thoughtful question. I would say that when it comes to copying versus being inspired, it is somewhat subjective, but I have heard that the general rule, if you need something more concrete, is if 30% or more of your work is derivative of something else, it is too much. I think 30% is that threshold. I had heard this mostly in response to typeface design, how much you take from another typeface versus your own. And it is a little bit subjective, like that percentage. There isn't like a machine you can put your work into and it tells you how much inspiration you've taken from other people. I would say that my best tips, this is going to be geared towards letterers just because that's what I do. When it comes to lettering, I believe that you can be derivative and you can be inspired by other people, but my best advice is to steal one thing from a bunch of different pieces. Don't take any more than one thing from another person's work. So what I mean by that is if you love a color palette, you can use someone's color palette, but do not make any of the phrase can't be the same, the layout can't be the same, the type styles cannot be the same, the decorations can't be the same. So if you are going to be inspired, just take one thing from someone's piece, your favorite thing about it, and that is the inspiration that you take for your piece. And then you can take other bits from other people's work and kind of remix it. I guess that's kind of what, remixes with music and collage are. But yeah, in order to not copy, I would say just take one thing from each piece. And when I say each piece too, don't take one thing from like 10 of one person's pieces of work. I think diversifying your inspiration sources are super important. But on that note too, I think for me, one tried and true thing is never ever have someone else's work up on a screen while you're working, because you will copy no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what you try to do, even if you're just looking for reference on like one letter form, put it away. My best advice too to train your eye and train your hand is you can look at inspiration on your phone or on your desktop, and then look at it, absorb it, and then close it, and then try to draw it from memory, or try to draw bits or what you liked about it or the spirit of it from memory. Honestly, it just takes a lot of practice. And yeah, it is a little bit subjective. What is considered like too much inspiration? I would say, I think I know what you're referencing in your question, and it's really hard because in that scenario, it's like someone's entire body of work, and it's also a lot more niche. I don't want to get too into it because we could honestly spend the next 45 minutes talking about this, but I do think that drawing inspiration from a lot of different sources is important. But also on that note, I also think that there are only so many things you can do with certain mediums too. And that's why I say come up with your own phrases. I think writing your own phrases is a great place to start, to not copy anybody, because then you can never steal someone's quote because you are writing something that you made up. And then just take one bit. So whether it's the texture in the background, or it's like the dimensionality, or it's a flourish, or it's the layout, just take one bit from that one person or that one piece, and then source your other bits from either yourself or from other places. And that usually does the trick even if you're unintentionally copy somebody. I find that I just try not to look at other people's work before I start working. It's a little bit
hashtag mood boards for life.
Yeah. I love Sam in the comments. Lauren as well, a tip I always loved is finding inspiration from completely different spaces. So if you're doing digital lettering, look beyond the world of just digital lettering. You could look at like signage from 100 years ago or something like that.
Totally.
And also completely different industries. And we do this all the time. I'll rip off stuff with marketing that's from like a completely different industry that's utterly unrelated, but I just like it, So
we had someone on one of the calls, I can't remember who it was now, and they were saying that they will like take inspiration from like the trees outside. Who was that? Was it?
That was a while ago.
Maybe.
Yeah, that might have been Illustrator.
Maybe. But, it's not just because you're doing it on the internet. It's not just about that. Like, go outside, actually look at the world around you. Yeah,
like if you're looking at 5 similar Instagrams, then your work is probably going to be pretty limited. Yeah.
Oh, of course. And that's, not limiting your inspiration just to Instagram or just to screens too. I think that I was teaching this in a workshop maybe 2 weeks ago, but I think a lot of like the magic that's happened in my own work, and a lot of what led to me developing my style and my confidence in my lettering too, was just drawing a lot and starting with a blank page and making a mark, and then being like, oh, that doesn't work, or adding a swash and be like, that doesn't work, and figuring out like just from whatever the last stroke I made was, like what the next step is going to be. That really, I think, honed my confidence over the years, because instead of sitting down and copying someone's composition or copying someone's phrase, you need to give yourself some space too, to come up with your own ideas and your own visual kind of style. And it is scary to sit down and like have a blank page and have a little bit of anxiety about, is that the right move? Is that the right move? It's easier when you can start with someone else's work as inspiration. But I would highly encourage all of you to sit down with your blank sketchbook and just draw, just doodle different letter forms, see, if, maybe an R can interlock with an A in this cool way. I think a lot of developing your personal style stems from that. At least for me, it did. So
from what feels right.
I'm loving, as always, Smith in the comments is saying #Queen Lauren Hom.
Yes, Smith.
I love it. Cool. We're going to jump into some other questions, but yeah, great answer, Lauren.
I feel like this is one that you can also help with because this is an honest episode about creative blog.
We've lost it. Too many questions are pouring in now.
Oh, gosh.
Where's she gone? Jessica. There we go.
Yeah, here.
Okay.
So Jessica asks, do you often get creative block, and what do you do to find inspiration and motivation again?
I don't get creative block super often, which I'm very fortunate. But also one thing I'll say about that is I don't get creative block very often because I have kind of honed my creativity over the years, and I'm just constantly thinking of new ideas and writing them down. And because I keep the kind of flow going, it never really dries up. It's kind of like the work you put into making ideas and like looking for inspiration or looking for ideas. The more front of mind you make it, I think the less creative block you kind of have. So it's something you need to keep practicing if you want it to keep flowing, if that makes sense. But when I'd say I feel more, not creative block, but like work, like block, procrastination, where I just feel like I don't want to do anything. That is where it's super specific to the situation you're in, but sometimes you genuinely have to give yourself a break, and you can't work all the time. So if you feel like you have creative block or you feel like procrastinating, if something isn't super urgent, you might just need to give yourself a break. I found that over the years, that's actually what my body has been asking me for, but I think it's something else, or I think that there's some other problem to solve. For me, it helps sometimes if you have an accountability partner to get something done. Doing client work is the easiest way for me to like stay accountable because someone else is depending on me to turn in files and things like that.
Yeah,
so when
Sam
it comes
to comments, literally just said having creative projects for other people is also really helpful.
Yeah, totally. And I think personal projects are where a lot of people get tripped up because if you're the one setting the deadline, then you can also change that deadline. So I would say so what I usually do is I'll find someone to keep me accountable. I'll put notifications on my calendar. Like I set my own deadlines. And then if I really want to kick in the butt, this is like for anyone who like hardcore needs to get something done, make a public announcement that, hey, I'm launching my new project on X date. Like can't wait to show it to you all. And once people see that, I guarantee you it will kick in like, okay, I have to get this thing done. So I think those are my best tips for kind of pushing through that next level of either being blocked with creation or blocked creatively. Yeah, my best creative block tip is to take a break and do other stuff in your life that you enjoy. Being an artist doesn't mean you have to be producing 24/7. So for me, I'd say that's the best advice I would give for where I'm at now.
Amazing.
And if you're getting it, take it easy on yourself. Don't beat yourself up so much about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Fahima, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I was just trying to read ahead there. So Fahima has said, how do you estimate how you should price when it comes to something like this? Do you scope out details of exactly what they're looking for, sketch phase, how many designs and licensing, etc.? This kind of stuff would intimidate me before actually doing the work.
Ooh, so with this particular project, so there's there's a bunch of ways people approach pricing. When it's a larger company, oftentimes they'll approach you with a budget. So with Target, because they do so many gift cards with so many different artists, they kind of come at you with a ballpark already of what they typically pay for these kinds of things. I believe, I should have pulled this from my emails. I believe that for this gift card, the licensing is for a year in stores. And the timeline was about 2 weeks, I think. And I was paid $3,000 to do it.
That's quite quick, 2 weeks, is it not?
Yeah, it was quite quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one thing I want to say about pricing too is that I haven't priced my own projects in maybe 5 years because I have an illustration agent. And that was a conscious decision I made early in my career to try to find an agent because I hate pricing. And I'm not ashamed.
Most people do.
I used to think that there was some like great like failure that I I wasn't able to price. I didn't like to price my work. I could do it. I just didn't like doing it. I don't love talking about money with clients. So I decided I was going to outsource it. And I've been with my agent for about 5 years. Granted, it's not the easiest to find an agent, but it's been really great so far. Yes, but yeah, back to your question, Fahima. Yeah, when you do get a project like that and a client doesn't have an idea and they're of what budget they have and they're asking you to price something out, yes, you have to consider the labor, the licensing. It's different for everybody. Some people make estimates based off of their hourly rate. Some people make an estimate based off of a comparable project that they've done before. I think it can be helpful, kind of like what I just shared, to know what like the going rate for things like a gift card for a major company is, or like a, greeting card for a national line. And those numbers aren't always readily available, which is why I think it's really helpful to befriend people in the industry and take classes and just ask people too, and find mentors and things like that. Usually it helps too when you're to talk with, one thing that helped me was talking with people who were not necessarily 10 or 20 years like my senior, but maybe 2, 4, 5 years ahead of where I was, and talk to them about how they were pricing so I could more realistically see what was within what was within reach for me. Because obviously if you just graduated school, you're not going to be able to charge what someone with 20 years of experience can charge. But knowing what someone with 2 years of experience is charging is super helpful because it gives you kind of a jumping off point. Another way I've heard is some people kind of reverse engineer their like living and work expenses and then derive their hourly rate out of that. We could talk about this for hours as well. But I would say don't let the pricing of the project overwhelm you too much. The pricing stuff, at least for me, only really started to get serious too when I started dealing with projects in the multiple thousands of dollars. Prior to getting my agent, I was really doing projects for $800, to be honest. It wasn't a lot of money. Yeah, but I'm very transparent with my students and people who talk with me that I am by no means the pricing queen because I don't actually price my own projects anymore. But my agent is wonderful, and I've had him on for Q&As with my classes sometimes. So
that might make a great future guest if you're willing to share.
Yeah,
because I know so many people struggle with that side of things.
Mm-hmm.
If you want
totally.
to, get his name out there. I think Paul in the comments actually asked how you went about finding a good agent.
Oh, yes. So I was 23 years old, and I didn't really know much about getting an agent other than that all of my favorite illustrators had them. And so it was literally one of those, for anyone who's seen Mean Girls, it was Regina George wore that, so I wore that. Or what was it? I saw Katie Heron wearing army pants and flip-flops, so I wore army pants and flip-flops. It was really that. I was young, and I figured if it worked for 10 or 20 of my favorite artists, I was like, maybe there's something to getting this whole agent thing. And so all I really did was went to all of my favorite illustrators' websites, saw who was representing them, copied and pasted their email, their agents' emails into a big list of people who I was going to reach out to, and put together a little pitch that was hey, my name's Lauren. I am an art director in advertising, but I also do hand lettering. I published a book last year, and here are some things I've done. I would be honored if you considered representing me. Let me know if you have any other questions, blah, blah, blah. And just emailed that out to a bunch of different agencies. And it actually worked quite well because instead of having to do weeks of research on what agencies to apply to, it was kind of if they were good enough for my favorite illustrators, then I figured they would be good enough for me. And I really didn't know what I was doing, and that really worked to my advantage because I wasn't intimidated at all, because no one told me it was hard to get an agent. I just thought it was something that you could just try to do. And so I reached out to about 30 of them, and I heard back from 3, and I have been with my same agent ever since.
Publishers kind of thing. It's just a numbers game.
It really is. That's what I would say to a lot of questions people give me too, is a lot of it is just a numbers game. You have to keep posting your work online, maybe 100, 200, 1,000 times before it gets noticed. You have to keep reaching out to people. You have to keep going, keep starting new projects, keep updating your website. You just have to kind of keep at it. And yes, I was fortunate that in that first batch of 30, I heard back. I will say that it helps if you have bigger name client work, or basically what agents are looking for is commercial viability in your work. And that's where, if you're a letterer and you're listening to this, legibility comes into play. They're looking for a point of view, because they're also looking for the types of clients. They're going to look at your work and think, okay, cool. What types of clients would pay money to work with this person? What brands are there enough brands that this aesthetic would be a good fit for? And if you have a point of view, like a certain topic you like to talk about with your work, or a certain color palette or tonality to your work, that certainly helps as well. For them to be like, they can kind of match you with what they think the commercial viability of your work is. So yeah, it definitely helped that I had a couple, like I think my biggest client projects before I got my agent, I had done a poster for YouTube, and I had done a bunch of posters for the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, which is a big airport in the US, but it's really not that big of a deal. I had published a book, which I think was probably the biggest kind of credibility marker, I would say. And the book that I had done was based off of a Tumblr blog I had started. So that was self-initiated as well. So you really never know what you can do when you put yourself out there. I think I just saw someone post in the chat that reaching out to people is hard, and I totally get that. Like, reaching out to individual people makes me nervous too, which is why I think a good step to work up to that is posting your work online. Is a great way to build up confidence to then reach out to individual people, because when you post your work online on Instagram or to a blog or wherever it may be, you're posting it to just like the general masses, and you might get some positive feedback. And confidence is just something, same with creativity, that just needs to be built up over time. No one just wakes up one morning and they're like, I think I'm confident. That's just not how it works. You need to get positive reinforcement from your actions that, like, hey, this is actually working, or hey, people are actually liking my work. It's okay to want and need some external validation for your work. Don't let anyone make you feel bad about that. It shouldn't be the only thing you're seeking, but it can feel super great. For anyone who's done this week's homework, that's like what this entire assignment is about, is scrolling through all the compliments people have given you and realizing how good they feel when people compliment your work. Just bask in it.
I love that. And we're definitely going to get to homework before the end. Absolutely. We've got a bunch more questions coming in, so we might almost have to do quick fire, because I don't want to miss that out.
Rapid fire.
We're going to put you on the spot. So quick one from Smith. He says, hello, Queen Lauren. May I ask, when is your Passion to Pay class going to start again?
Ooh, I haven't announced this officially, but Passion to Paid, oh my gosh, the fifth round. Wow. I've been teaching, for those of you who don't know, Passion to Paid is my like creative marketing boot camp, where I show people my entire process and walk them through coming up with a passion project that you can continue to work on and use to generate leads for the type of client work you want to do, because that's what I've done with my career. It's going to start in May 2019. Oh. So you only have two more months to wait. And for those of you who are curious too, it's a 5-week program. There's 2 video lessons every week, a workbook, and then I do a live Q&A, kind of like this, but just with my students, and we do a Q&A based on that lesson. So it's like a digital classroom. And then, yeah, I think that this is going to be the 5th time I run it. This is super nutty. I will be doing a scholarship program too. I haven't quite totaled up how many I'm giving away, but for those of you who are curious, yes, there will be a scholarship program as well. And yeah, it's going into the 5th round of the class, and I'm really excited.
I love that. Yeah, it's a really, really cool program. Who knows, maybe we could have you back on nearer the time. And we can talk like, Passion to Paid topics.
Yeah. I see Sonia in the comments.
Yeah, hey, Sonia.
She won a scholarship last year.
Oh, Sonia did?
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. Yeah, we're actually through Instagram, we're now working with her. So we've got her on board with some projects, and big supporter of Sonia.
Sonia was on the call with us last week.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really fun actually.
Amazing.
Okay, let's see if we can get through another couple of questions.
Let's go. So we've got one from Vanessa.
So Vanessa's basically saying, do you think that somebody, for example, who came from the background of being like a lawyer or something, who has no graphic design education and is completely self-taught, do you think that that sort of a person could succeed in the industry?
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. I think that I was just talking about this with a friend. Nowadays, you don't need a fancy art school degree to make it online. Sure, the foundation of, knowing the design thinking and, knowing color theory and all that stuff is helpful. But nowadays, you can teach yourself that stuff through books and online, and take time and dedication. And again, sharing your work over and over again, experimenting a lot, finding your voice. There are so many people who don't have traditional design backgrounds who are now illustrators or writers or artists. And it will just take, kind of like what we outlined, the exact same thing, where it's just finding your voice and experimenting and putting yourself out there over and over again. If there's one thing you take away from this chat, and I think any chats that I do, is sharing your work and experimenting is the number one thing you should do. You're going to have to put out a lot of kind of crappy work before you find your voice and figure out like what people are responding to and what you are vibing with. And so anytime that you're feeling discouraged, just know that as long as you continue to produce work, you're still on the right path. And it's kind of a lifelong journey, I guess.
I have to say, for me personally, that kind of goes with like anything in life, and this is going to sound really negative, but like I went to school with loads of people who went on to university and they went on their degrees and they did loads of like amazing educational extras. I didn't do that, and I went straight into work, and those people came out of university and they struggled to get a job because they didn't have any experience. So they had their qualifications, but they couldn't really do anything with them because people want experience, right? So, it's not really about what you have on your CV in terms of qualifications as such. It's about the experience that you have.
Unless you're a doctor or something. But whenever we've hired designers, you obviously look at their portfolio. It's like, are they a nice person? And is their design work good? I don't care about a bit of paper.
Whatever,
so I think this is a question from Janik on our team.
Who's plugged in listening, so that's why you can't hear us.
We've got some of the team listening in right now. So Janet asked, what actually got you into hand lettering in the first place?
I presume Janet.
Is that you that asked that, Janet? How did you get into hand lettering? Yeah, he's curious. Janet over there.
Big fan.
Fanboying over there. He's sat on a bean bag right now. It's the most startup thing you've ever seen.
Like
he's just there chilling, watching.
Yeah, I feel like startup is like beanbag chair, beer, and like a ping pong table. Anyways, I got into hand lettering.
Yeah, we'll have to turn you around. You can see.
And you need to come visit, which I've said many times. And I am legit pretty serious that I want to get a slide and a ball pit when we move office in July. It's going to happen.
Amazing.
Health and safety involved with that, Tom.
It's happening. You're going on.
I love it.
Sorry, Lauren, take it away. How did you get into hand lettering?
I got into hand lettering. I had always doodled like my name. I was like that girl in high school where people were like, "Oh, you have good handwriting. Can you write my name like on my notebook?" And no one had ever told me it was like a job. And then I found out what graphic design was and art direction was, but I never really knew what type was. I took a typography class and a communication design class my sophomore and my junior year at SVA, and that kind of opened my eyes to, like, type is a complete study that some people dedicate, their whole careers towards. And I was an advertising major, actually. So for those of you who thought I went to school for type or illustration, definitely not the case. I went to school for advertising and marketing. So you don't have to have the background in type to become like a letterer. It certainly helps. But you can teach yourself a lot of stuff online. And I think the hours you put in terms of practice are more important. But I just started doing it as a hobby on the side. And it was kind of crazy. I was doing it as a hobby and incorporating it into some design projects here and there, but not all of them. And then I decided to start Daily Dishonesty, which was my Tumblr type blog, where I was just hand lettering all of the little white lies that my friends and I told ourselves. So, calories don't count on the weekend, or I'll be there in 5 minutes. And that totally took off online in a way that I did not expect at all. And that kind of catapulted me into the world of commercial hand lettering where people saw my blog and started following it. And then they were like, hey, you made that thing for your blog. Can you make that, for my blog? Can you make this as a, t-shirt or as a card? And so I started doing hand lettering projects from there. And it's been 5 years now. So yeah, personal work and just a personal interest in it. And then the catalyst though, for it becoming a career was making a passion project and putting it online and updating that passion project a couple times a week or just consistently was the thing that did it for me.
Perfect. I love it. Let me just check. Jano, you over there?
Plugged in.
Sorry? Good answer.
I'm still listening.
No, there's a
there's
delay.
a lag.
I don't think they can hear.
Let's take that as a yes.
He's happy anyway.
So
We've
we
got
might
so many more questions that we need
good
to
answer,
do
it says.
the
Yeah, let's we might have to go super quick fire.
Okay, rapid fire.
Because I really want to get around everyone. So Tama, who we love dearly,
hey Tama,
says, I'd be super curious about any recommendations regarding how to promote your work or to be recognized or even considered for opportunities. So cool to see I think he's talking about the target thing here.
Yeah.
Which obviously came through your agent. But in general, have you got any recommendations for how to promote yourself, how to get recognized and get your name out there beyond what you just touched on? And he also said, absolutely beautiful work. Love your spirit and style.
Thank you.
Emma's a sweetheart.
Well, I've heard everyone has a different strategy. And so for me, my strategy in terms of getting my name out there and generating buzz and building a following, but also building a portfolio is passion projects, honestly. And when I say passion projects, I don't just mean like lettering a quote here and there or posting to your Instagram. A passion project means picking one idea and creating a project around it that you can make multiple pieces for, ideally, 15 plus pieces. It kind of works as like a big ad campaign, I guess. It's like you're picking one idea and you're consistently updating it. And something that's a little bit more interesting than I'm going to letter the names of, all 50 states in the US or something. There has to be kind of an interesting hook to it, which is kind of where my advertising background comes in. I help people come up with passion project ideas that are a little bit meatier and a little bit have potential to be shared. And yeah, I honestly built my entire career off of making personal work and under a passion project kind of thing, and then getting press for it, and then having other people organically share my work. And that was, I call it lazy marketing. If you make stuff that is interesting and relatable or funny. So for me, humor is my in, and luckily that's very relatable, but it doesn't have to be humored. I think a lot of people who follow my work think that, oh, I'm not funny, so I can't be successful. And that's definitely not true. You could be like a nihilist and be successful with lettering. You don't have to be positive. But yeah, finding an audience that shares your sense of humor or shares your point of view, I think is really important. And in terms of opportunities like client work, it really is as simple as it's not as simple as this, but the rapid fire answer I'm going to give you is the kind of work that you would like to get paid to do is the kind of personal work that you need to be doing in order to get those opportunities, because people need to see visual examples of what you can do. So if you really want to design book covers someday, you need to start making book covers on your own and having those in your portfolio, and then you'll get hired for it. People will not hire you for things they can't see in your portfolio.
And I know that sounds so obvious. It is staggering to me how few people adopt that approach.
Yeah.
Like practically no one. And I see it so consistently that when people do that and they do it well, it pays off. So for all the people on the call right now, please kind of reiterate that internally, like put out the work that you want to get hired for, whether it's, for clients, or if you don't have clients yet, like do it in the form of passion projects and personal work. Like it really, really works, because people all the time, like anyone we've had on the show who's successful, clients come to them and say, I like that type of work that you do, and I want to hire you to do work like that for me. That's how it works. So if your feed's a jumbled mess, or you're doing work which is like over here, but the work you should be doing is over here, there's a disconnect.
Oh, totally. One thing I want to mention to all of you that I hope helps too is when you let's say you want to get hired for book covers, and you start making a bunch of book covers and you're posting them on Instagram and you have them in your portfolio, it may take a week, it may take a year before someone actually hires you to do that. And don't be discouraged if it takes a long time. I did a project where I was painting on glass jars, and I thought it was going to be a huge success, and it wasn't. And I got hired for a $15,000 project 3 years later. So had I, been like, oh no, this project was a failure, and then not put it in my portfolio, I never would have gotten that project 3 years down the road. So
was that, can I say what client that was?
Bank of America?
Yeah,
I think
right.
that was it. Yeah. And yeah, because that was one thing. My agent had a really beautiful metaphor, analogy. I always get this confused for it. Passion projects and personal work are like planting a bunch of seeds in your garden, and they're a bunch of random seeds. You do not know when they're going to sprout, but you have to keep planting and watering them, because they will sprout eventually. So you just have to have faith that if you keep going, they will sprout.
I love it. And for anyone that hasn't seen that project, it was basically glass jars that you put your savings in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember some of the, what was it? It was like, normally it has stuff like rainy day fund on it, but and you were like Doritos and weed.
Yeah.
I'm saving for it, that kind of thing.
Right, yeah. Totally.
Yeah. All right. Let's try and get through the final questions. So who are we up to? So Tama, Niyasha.
Is this Nisha? I'm sorry.
I always murder the names on this show. I hate it. So do you ever walk away from a project based on pay amount or morals? I'm going to presume you do based on pay if it's not enough, but like, have you had any instances where something really clashes with your morals and you're like, no, it's not for me?
Yes. So that's a tough one, because I used to always think about like, oh, people have bills to pay, and you don't really know what your line is until you're approached by something that you're like, I don't know. So pay wise, yes. If it's just kind of the natural progression of things. I do turn stuff down now if the budget is too low, just because I only have, X amount of time in the week, and it's just because I'm in demand, I can charge more. In terms of morals, I have turned some stuff down over the years. I recently turned down what is it called? Vaping? Is it a vape pen?
Oh no, vapors in this office.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So the reason is I personally don't smoke, and people are totally allowed to smoke, but if something isn't something that I've actually used or like partaken, I feel like, especially now, so it's gotten a little bit different over the last 2 years, because I'm not only doing work for clients, but they want me to post it on my feed now, because I have a big Instagram following.
Yeah.
So it's like part client work, part sponsored, like influencer
that goes into the pricing as well, which
oh, totally. It's great, but it also means I have to look at my clients now through a even tighter magnifying glass, because it's coming not just being put onto their stuff, but it's going on my personal Instagram. So yeah.
It's like those celebrities with those really cringing endorsements.
Yeah.
Like, after a long, hard day of hand lettering, I enjoy this smooth vape. Wouldn't really be a good fit.
Oh, I know. Yeah. So but that's been interesting to navigate, but I'd say most projects I accept. And I've been lucky though, because I make the work that I want to get hired for. I typically get briefs and projects that are pretty in line with stuff I want to work on anyways. So yeah, that's another benefit, is when you have a point of view online, people will already kind of know where you stand on certain things, and they'll know if your tonality is correct. And if it's not, don't take any offense to it. It just means that they need to find someone else, and a more aligned client will find you for what they need you to do.
I love it. Good answers. So we're going to have to go super rapid here. Are you good on time, Lauren? You got like 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, we've got two more. The two
left.
final questions. Another one from Superfan Janek over here. He said, what would you do for a 9-to-5 job if you weren't hand lettering?
In my fantasy life or in real life?
Let's go fantasy life. I presume that would be the most interesting answer.
For my if I was working a 9-to-5 job, 9 to 5. Okay, so before I was a hand letterer, I thought I was going to be a veterinarian. So maybe I'd be doing that if I wasn't. But realistically,
working at Design Cuts.
I was going to say realistically, I'd probably still be working in advertising, to be honest. I did burn out of my ad job, but it was easier to burn out when I knew I had my plan B, which was lettering. It wasn't the worst job. It was tolerable. But I'd still be working in, I'd say, like the agency world or maybe at a design studio. I'm not quite sure.
Just a better one. Tolerable is not a good adjective. You know, if you describe the first date as tolerable, it's probably not going to be a second one.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
very, very
final
true.
question.
All right, who is it going to be? Final question. Oh, Rachel snuck one in.
Rachel, you stuck in there.
Okay, this always happens during my live streams too.
Have you got time for 2 quick final ones? Thanks, Lauren. Okay, so Annie asks, how have you found / started collaborations?
Ooh, with other artists or with brands?
Yeah, other artists, I presume.
When I collaborate with other artists, it's either like one of us will reach out to the other one. I actually just uploaded like a couple of days ago an Instagram TV. It's like 20 minutes about this. About instead of saying, emailing someone and saying, hey, do you want to collaborate? It's a lot easier and you'll get a much higher response rate if you reach out to somebody and you tell them what you want to collaborate on. Don't leave it open-ended because you're basically asking them, unless they're a close friend. Like if it's a close friend and you guys want to, throw around some ideas and brainstorm, that's totally cool. But if you're reaching out to a stranger, I highly recommend saying, hey, so-and-so, really love your work and that your work focuses on this topic. I also love that topic and was wondering if you want to collaborate on a poster celebrating blank topic. It's a lot. You'll get a much higher response rate when you have it's almost like you're giving them a brief, but it's an artist collaborative brief. It's not, a client project. It's a lot easier for me to respond to any kind of message or email when there's a direct yes or no, or like when there are specifics being addressed. So I would say instead of posting, in your story, does anyone want to collaborate, or sending out kind of a broader thing, do your research and figure out what you want to collaborate on with specific people, and then reach out to them. And kind of like what Tom mentioned earlier, it is kind of a numbers game. Do not be offended if someone says no or doesn't get back to you, because they're probably busy and we all, let our inboxes slide sometimes. Another tip that I have to start collaborating is, even though you might want to reach out to 10 of your idols to collaborate and you're just starting out, you might not get a response, and don't take it personally. It's just that when you collaborate with other artists, there needs to be somewhat of an equal value trade just from a business standpoint. And your best bet if you want to start collaborating is to reach out to people who have similar experience or a similar follower count to you. And don't discredit that as invaluable or not valuable, because even if both of you have 500 followers, you're getting exposed when you do a collaboration and you both post about it on Instagram. You're still getting exposed to someone else's audience. So start small and work your way up bigger. That's how I did it. And you also never know. There are so many people I collaborated with in 2013 who are now who have blown up online and are quote unquote famous artists. But we all started out around the same time with 200 followers. So, don't discredit that either. But you will just factually get a higher response rate if you reach out to your peers rather than your idols. Some practical 100%. Advice.
And like you say, build it up. I put a link to Lauren's Instagram below this video, so it's that snazzy shiny green button. If you click that and then go check it out on her Instagram TV. I think you said there's a 20-minute video on that subject, so definitely check that out. But great answer. And in terms of collaboration, I guess the final note I would add is I love going very, very deep and personal with any of these approaches. So, for example, do you know Becca at Happy Ever Crafter?
Yes.
Yeah, so lovely. And she loves dad jokes and bad puns. Right. So every time we message, we're trading these horrendous jokes. And so figure out what makes the person tick and then go in with that. I'd be a lot more likely if I was an artist to say, Becca, do you want to collaborate and let's do a piece on puns? And if I put together a hand-lettered piece being Becca, and wrote out a pun and be like,
totally
want to do this? You know what I mean? Because it's going to like appeal to them much more personally.
Of course, because when you're reaching out to somebody to collaborate, you're asking them to dedicate their time to something, and you want to make it as easy as possible. And you should do all the leg or most of the legwork ahead of time to set it up where they like make it an irresistible offer, basically.
Yes, 100%. So final question here. Rachel asked tips for creating practice briefs, and it has vanished because, hold on.
Where did it go?
Oh no. Rachel, did you delete your question? I was like midway through reading it. Oh no, here we go. Tips for creating practice briefs. No official design background.
Practice briefs for lettering, is that?
I think so, yeah. I don't fully, maybe clarify in the comments, Rachel, but does she mean maybe where you like make up a brief for a personal project? Or
perhaps.
Did you think something else?
Yeah, so I found I teach a lot of this in Passion to Paid of how to come up with your own idea for a series. So what's so powerful about a passion project, choosing one idea and then executing under it, is that every time you sit down, you already have a starting point. So what I mean by that is a good place to start looking for, I guess, your own briefs is, especially, so I'll talk about this in terms of lettering first.
Cool. Oh yeah, she just left a comment saying, yeah, I've got no idea how to make up a brief. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So making a brief for yourself, it can be as simple as picking a product and then giving yourself, a target audience, or like you could even start with generic things that are already out there. So like a holiday, you just need something as a starting point, and then you can kind of give yourself a brief. You can even, if you're having a hard time coming up with one for yourself, ask a friend to make one for you. You could also, I'm trying to think, one way I usually make, I guess, passion project briefs for myself or start to brainstorm ideas is I think about, inside jokes with friends, or I think about problems in my life, like even minor inconveniences that I could, maybe come up with a creative solution like to solve. You could, in terms of lettering, I'd say inside jokes with friends, if there are any topics that you find yourself consistently talking about, or one slightly less creative but effective way to have an ongoing brief for yourself too is to find like lists of facts or lists of things and letter that, or make your own list of things, like maybe it's like 100 lessons, or bits of advice from your mom. That's a bad example, but with lettering, I find that you have to find a broader topic that has a lot of different phrases within it that fall within there. So daily dishonesty is a good example of that, of, here are the little white lies me and my friends tell ourselves. And we were like 21 at the time, and they were all pretty lighthearted. You could letter, facts. I think facts are good. You could letter, I usually tell people to stay away from song lyrics and movie quotes just because they're copyrighted most of the time.
Yeah, what about, I know Rachel is actually part of, I guess it's like a mastermind, which I do every week. And a lot of people are in these groups where it's more of a collective. So if you're in a group of friends and you're all creatives, you could take it in turns setting one for the rest of the group, and then you all do it. It's like a mini internal homework.
Why don't you guys go into the forum and set briefs for each other?
Yes.
Just saying.
I like that.
Also, Lady T in the comments, hilarious, because we don't, in the UK, pants is underwear. So I was reading that comment like, why is she saying I've got crazy pants?
Do you mind standing up? Let's have a look at these. Great pants.
Amazing.
They're all like stripy.
They're even more colourful than Lauren's headboard there.
Well, I was reading it like, why is she talking about my pants?
I hate this headboard. Oh, I was just commenting to Tom that this headboard's really ugly.
It's a little bit 70s, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Lauren, thank you so much for demoing your client project. Thank you so much for the amazing Q&A.
We need to do homework.
Packed with value. I know, I haven't forgotten.
Oh, I thought you were signing off. I was like, no.
Yeah, so I can't remember how we do these. Are we Lauren's gonna set it and then we'll show last week's?
Do we have time to show last week's? Are you good still for time? Or?
Do you have literally 5 minutes more, Lauren?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to quickly jump in and share last week's homework, which Sonia, you're obviously on the call, which is really nice because we're going to go and see
yeah,
them.
cool.
Sonia set that for us last week. So let me share my screen. Bear with me.
Lady T says you got the best outfit. She wants to see you illustrated.
Oh no, you can do it, Lady T, because I can't draw to save my life. Okay, so can you guys see the screen?
Yeah, Lauren, is that coming through? Because we can't read the comments.
Yes.
Amazing.
Okay, brilliant.
Cool.
So obviously last week, well, it started the first week, obviously we had James Lewis, and that was to do the quote.
Yeah.
And then Sonia kind of built on that and was saying to illustrate something alongside that quote or pick a new quote and illustrate it as well. So let's have a look and see what we've got. So Deborah, absolutely stunning. Like, I just love Deborah's style. It's like the vintage feel.
I know, it's kind of like...
I really, really love it, but it's so distinctive.
It's like texture, slightly digital scrapbooky, but like really ornate and beautiful. Nice.
You can see that, Lauren, yeah?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I didn't know.
I'm just making, because we can't see what you can see anymore, so I'm just checking you can
Wait.
still see it.
That's really cool. When I'm gone, I hope you'll see about how happy she made me, for I'll be there in my daughter's eyes.
That's so sweet.
It's really sweet. We also have this one from C. Doghouse. If you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito.
Oh my God.
I hate mosquitoes.
I love that.
That noise gives me, I
amazing.
hate it.
And this one, learn the form but seek the formless, hear the soundless, lean it in and lean it all, then forgot. I think that learn it all, then forget it all, learn the way, then find your own way. The silent monk. That's really cool, actually.
Yeah,
I love what's going on there with the red. Very nice.
Oh, I just commented on
this
this on
is awesome.
Instagram today, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I just loved, like, I felt like that actually had, like, I could feel the earthy kind of vibes when I saw it. I was like, yes to this.
I feel like Biggie's consistently delivering.
Yeah.
Again, really stepping things up since the rap career. Great. Yeah, that's awesome. Really, really, really stunning. Dracula vibes only.
That's really cool.
That is amazing as well. I love how varied it is as well. So many different styles, but yeah, some serious 3D lettering going on there.
Yeah, that reminded me of
the
Ian's 50-foot Michelle poster, actually.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Michelle.
Never give up. Amazing. Thank you, Michelle. Loving the, is that one of our textures? That looks very familiar.
I see, I wouldn't.
I'm liking that. Loving how dynamic the text is.
Oh, Lady T, it hasn't loaded for some reason.
No.
I saw it on Instagram, though.
Hold on, let's see if that opens up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Can you guys see that?
Oh, wow. This is really cool.
I said, how much detail has gone into that? Like, all the little different elements.
And that's a really, really cool illustration, actually. Damn.
She said it was based on me, and I'm joking.
No.
This is Sam.
Oh, wow. Nice. Yeah, rap persona. Yeah. Nice, Sam.
I love it, Sam. Yes, the donut.
Okay, but first coffee. I love that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that.
Loving the coffee bean there.
Babs.
Oh, you guys killed it this week. You deserve better.
Really cute.
Nice from Barbara. That's really sweet style, actually. And yes, if that's a sausage dog. Oh, guys. Sharing. Right, can everyone see us, hopefully? Nice.
So over to you for this week's assignment, Lauren.
Take it away.
Ooh. Okay, so this is a special treat. This, for those of you who do my homework challenge, you're going to get the assignment a little bit early. You have a slight, I think, 12-hour head start on everybody else, or maybe 24-hour. I don't know the time difference here. I haven't quite computed. Anyways, your assignment this week, I guess, for this challenge is to participate in my challenge this week. So for those of you who haven't done homework, it's a weekly creative prompt that I send out every Friday. I've been doing it for 60 weeks now. It's been a long time, so it's been going on for quite a while. This week, I have an amazing guest teacher. I bet a lot of you follow her on Instagram already. She goes by The Greater Good. Her name's Elizabeth Gray. She's phenomenal. Her assignment for you all, which is coming out in 12, 18 hours, is this is actually perfect. It's based on what we've been talking about in this chat here, so that's perfect. It's to create the kind of work that you want to get paid for. So her backstory is she wanted to get paid for a mural, and so she had created some lettering and mocked some up in her, I guess, house, and I think ended up getting commissioned to do a mural. So it's a little bit vague, but what I would love for you all to do is, if you feel inspired from this conversation and think about the kind of work, think about one dream project that you would love to work on before the end of 2019, whether it's a book cover or the cover of a magazine for your favorite magazine. Maybe it's a t-shirt for your favorite band, whatever it may be. Think of just one dream project and then make it. And then the assignment is to post it on Instagram and tell us a little bit about why, like, this is your dream project, and tag the brand or the whoever you made it for on Instagram as well. And her whole intention behind the assignment is, again, you have to make the work before you get the work, and you never know what's going to happen from it. Someone could see it online, they might not, but they definitely could. And you just have to start getting the ball rolling on the kind of stuff that you actually want to get hired for. And what better time to start than right now? So,
if you design it and you enjoy it, then keep doing it so that you can keep doing what you want to get paid for.
100%.
So I have created the thread.
I love Sam's comment there.
I know.
Sam just went where you guys are getting rat illustrations. You're welcome. She loves rats.
So I have created the thread over in the forum already, so you guys know where to go and find your homework assignments over there. I just kind of put a basic brief because me and Lauren obviously spoke before the call, but I will go in and give a little bit more detail now that we've spoke about it in person. But yeah, so that's your Hangout homework for this week. We have the Hangout homework hashtag. God, that's a tongue twister for Instagram. But please to hashtag Lauren's as well, so that we can check you out and get you shared on our stories.
And also shout out to you, Lauren, because I totally nicked your homework idea with your permission.
I wasn't going to say anything.
That's why we do these homeworks, is because I saw you doing it and I was like totally stealing. How's that for 30% stealing?
That is
we did make our own name though.
Well, you know what? That opens up another interesting question. Like, you just
homework. Sorry, go on.
You totally should have gone.
Just rhyming.
Well, I was gonna say that you mentioned this earlier, Tom, but stealing marketing techniques, but packaging them up in different ways. No one owns, having an email newsletter. Nobody owns running a weekly design challenge, but you can't steal someone's hashtag. You can't make it too similar. So my best advice is you can take the format, but you need to put your own spin on it, whether it's naming it, finding your own slightly different point of view. So the thing about my weekly challenge that I started homework in response to, I had seen so many there's hundreds, thousands maybe of lettering challenges you could follow on Instagram. And they're all great and they're good for practice. But I noticed the challenge would be like, letter the word blue, or, letter the name of your favorite food, or they would give you very specific like phrases or words to letter. And it wasn't really teaching anybody to learn how to write or think of their own concepts. And because I come from an advertising background, that's very dear to my heart. And so I started homework as a way to give people a creative brief, but to leave it open-ended, to start training your brain to think in a more creative way and to put your own, there's always room for you to add your own point of view and your own personality. And so that, I think, is my, I guess, unique selling point of homework. And I love doing that because it's good to practice phrases that are already there, but it's even better, I think, to figure out what your point of view is and what you want to write about. And for those of you who have been doing homework for a while too, you've probably started to realize that you gravitate towards making your homeworks about certain subjects or, using certain color palettes. And that is huge for finding your voice as an artist. So yeah, for Rachel, you asked about making briefs too. I think that if anyone's struggling with figuring out how to make a brief for themselves, whether it's for a personal piece or a passion project, homework is a great way to start. If you sign up now too, you get access to all 60 of the previous year and a month's assignments.
Yeah, guys,
so you can kind of see what we've done. Yeah.
Yeah, we got a new shiny button.
Yeah, we got a link. Click the green button below this video. If you're not on homework, you'll see everyone in the comments just raving about it anyway. But it is incredible if you need that jolt of weekly inspiration and just being part of that wider community of people. So if you're already doing the design cuts homework, definitely get involved with homework. And Lauren also reshares some of her favorites, which is huge exposure. I know Sonia, who is in the chat and we had on last week, that helped blow up her early profile and get loads of attention, which is really nice to see.
And also I did see a couple of comments just to say that if you don't have Instagram, please post it in the forum. We tend to get you to do it in the forum and on Instagram if you have it. Instagram is more so for whoever our guest is that week to check it out if they're not, you know, in our forum every day. For you guys, please do post it in the forum thread because that's where our community are hanging out, or over on our Facebook, whatever works for you. But yeah, definitely share it on Instagram for the guests to check out so that they don't have to go into the forum and dig into the threads to try and find it.
Amazing. Well, thank you again, Lauren. Best places to find you. I mean, we got your website there and the homework sign up. We put your Instagram on there. Anywhere else, or is that like the main areas?
Those are the main places to find me.
Incredible. I think I just saw Rachel saying early adopter. She's on that homework bandwagon.
Yes, so many of you have been early homework adopters and early passion to paid adopters, and I'm so honored. I've gotten such great feedback on homework too, and it's free and it's just once a week. And I decided once a week because it was consistent enough to keep you accountable, and you don't have to do every single assignment either. Some people are still going back through the archives. You can pick and choose the ones that speak to you. No offense taken if you don't want to do certain ones, but they're there for you when you need a place to start and you're feeling like you want to get the creative juices flowing again. And I write them all, and they're silly and funny, and I hope that they're helpful.
They are, and I love tuning into them. I just saw a comment. Hannah's homework didn't show up this week. Sorry about that, Hannah. I went through again and I still couldn't see it. So if something has gone wrong,
let me know.
Yeah, let's reach out and we'll hopefully get a chance to share it.
Hannah, can you DM us on Instagram or in the forum so I can figure that out with you, please?
Amazing. Thank you, Hannah.
Just because I can't see your email address from here.
Yeah, Lauren, thank you again from us and everyone in the comments. Let's give it up for Lauren. That was amazing.
Aw, thanks, everybody.
The whole office. Feeling the love.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Janet fell off the beanbag over there. It's all good.
Cool. Amazing.
Before we go?
Yeah, although we need to definitely end on a Lauren note. So Lauren, I never do this. I never tend to mention our stuff, but because it's such close timing, super quickly for everyone who's on, I'm actually jumping on with Christo on the future tomorrow. So if any of you guys are interested in that, I'll put a link just below the video. Check it out.
If you haven't heard of it, it's a podcast, just in case. I'm going to the future.
It should be a really fun one though, and it's basically doing essentially a mini live course on their YouTube, which teaches how to create successful digital products, which is something we obviously know pretty well here at Design Cuts. So if you want to learn how to have amazing preview graphics, what ideas of products to come up with, all that kind of stuff, it's going to be 100% free. So I will put the link just below this video. And then Lauren, please come up with a better sign off than that, because I don't want to end on my note.
Leave us with something inspirational.
Oh man. Don't put me on the spot.
Just tell us a joke or something then.
There we go. Yeah, the link's below the video, guys. But it would mean a lot if you guys jumped on, and I promise it's going to be value packed with how to sell this.
You definitely should. I'm sure it's going to be super value packed. Yeah, Christo knows what he's talking about, and the two of you together are going to be. It's going to be a powerhouse segment. It'll be great.
Also, some of the team might feature on there with our photo.
Oh yeah, yeah. You have to wait and see, but we took some ridiculous team photos to work into my presentation. Like completely taking the piss, but it should be funny. But yeah, once again, Lauren, thank you so much for
thank you.
giving
it's
so
lovely
much of
to
your
meet
time.
You. I've heard so much about you. I'm so glad we got to chat.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks everybody who tuned in, whether you knew about this earlier this week or like 5 minutes ago. Thank you for joining. I saw some familiar names come up in the chat box, so thank you for being here.
Even
though
they're a great bunch.
Oh, everyone's saying they really enjoyed it. So thank you.
I'm glad we got the internet working as well for the first minute.
Now you're like,
it was like you're doing the robot. It was like every few seconds.
But yeah,
it was
no, now.
It's smooth as you like now. So yeah, Lauren, I guess I'll probably chat to you next week or something. But thank you again for jumping on. The comments have been amazing as always. Thank you guys for getting so involved and being so supportive. So glad that everyone enjoyed it.
And we'll see you at the same time next week.
We'll see you next time. Everyone, if you're not following Lauren, go check her out now. Though she's one of the most giving people in the industry. So definitely go check her stuff out.
And we'll see you guys next time.
All right, see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.